Many sports leagues are celebrating Juneteenth, made it a paid holiday. We want to see how you guys feel about that, how the major sports leagues adopting Juneteenth, what you think about what they did. Moving on, Dak Prescott, he signed his franchise tag tender with the Dallas Cowboys, $31.4 million as of Monday. What do you guys think that means for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott moving forward? Maybe what your thoughts are about that. Also, Steve Berline chimed in, former NFL quarterback. He said Dak Prescott hadn't earned the privilege of being the highest paid quarterback in the league quite yet. Interested to see what your guys' thoughts are on that, being that he was a mediocre quarterback himself throughout his NFL career. The Washington Redskins, they retired the number of Bobby Mitchell, which is well overdue, the first black player for the team. But they're keeping the logo in place. We all know what the Redskins represents. We want to know what your thoughts are about that. I think that's a pretty heavy subject, but I think it'd be good to get some feedback. Also, Brett Favre compared Colin Kaepernick's struggles to social justice with Pat Tillman and him leaving the NFL for a tour of duty over in Afghanistan. Of course, we know that he lost his life, so we're interested to see how you feel about Brett Favre's comments and trying to compare Colin Kaepernick to Pat Tillman. We'll lighten it up a little bit. What are your top 5 NFL wide receivers in history? I know that could be a little bit controversial. There's some guys that kind of sit right on the fringe, so we'd like to hear about that. The NBA and the force majeure clause. What do you guys think about that moving forward with the NBA? That could be a big clause for some players on whether they want to play or not this season, so be interested to see what you guys think. The NBA is set to restart in July. Who are your favorite teams in the East? Who are your favorite teams in the West? Who do you think is going to meet in the finals? And last but not least, who do you think going to win the whole thing? I already know what Raquel is going to say, but we'll get to that a little bit later. We're going to go to your top 5 small forwards in NBA history to lighten it up after we talk about the NBA a little bit. I think that list could get a little bit interesting. And if we got time, we're definitely going to talk about Kansas and some of the egregious and severe penalties that the NCAA is talking about putting on the Kansas basketball team. There's a great documentary that was put out about this and what you guys think about some of the things Bill Self has said. He's coming out pretty strong denying these allegations, so I'll be interested to hear what you guys think. So before we get into it, make sure you hit us up Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, like us, subscribe, do all the things that you guys know how to do. So let's get to it. All right. So the league has celebrated, many sports leagues celebrated Juneteenth. Raquel, and I know you always got strong opinions about these things. So kind of tell us what you think about, many leagues deciding to finally honor Juneteenth and make it a holiday and make it a paid holiday for some employees. Start us off with some of that heat you got.
Well, it should have always been a paid holiday. The 4th of July has been, and we know that isn't our Independence Day. Our Independence Day hasn't changed since 1865, June 1865. So why now? I think it's because of the pressure that's going on in the country. These major sport teams, the league wants us to feel more at home because they want us to suit up and play. They still need their horses. So let's throw them another bone and see if we can appease them. Let's keep throwing them these bones so that we can put back in the closet all the issues that really need to stay on the forefront. I think that's really the only reason it's now all of a sudden a paid holiday. Why did it have to come to 8 minutes and was it 26 seconds of a man with a knee in his neck? Because that's what this really is about. You are trying to shut us up. You are trying to get us to be quiet so that we can go on and continue to play and make you the billions of dollars that we've made you for the last 65, 75 years. So for me, I think it's more about appeasing Black folk and getting us to be quiet. Here's another bone. You want this, right? So I'm not impressed, but I am happy for those that are going to get paid on a day that they wouldn't have traditionally gotten paid. I'm happy that they're going to get to celebrate Juneteenth, but nonetheless, it's another bone to get us to shut up.
Lee, come with it, man.
She's bringing the smoke, ain't she, Marv? I mean, good Lord. I'm hot right now. Good Lord. Look, and seldom on this show do I agree with Raquel. I mean, I must have a fever, COVID-19, probably, I don't know. But I mean, she's right. I mean, they it's good for business at this time. It's definitely good for business. It's something that, as the focus shifted from what President Trump said to all of the different people who were chiming in, it's certainly good for business. But hey, there has to be change sometimes, and I'm happy that going forward, a lot of the leagues, a lot of the people, maybe even the entire country, will support Juneteenth. I think that's great. The leagues are looking at the bottom line, looking at the money generated, keeping our people, trying to appease the social justice itch that most athletes are getting right now. And so, from a business perspective, it's a great move. If you're just looking at it from a pure business perspective, great move by the leagues. A little late for most of us, but it's okay. I don't begrudge them for doing it. I think it's a smart move on their part, and really, it sets them up to start to, as they're trying to build their platform to tell all the players, we are with you now. It shapes the seasons, beginning to start, and so I don't really feel that it's a great gesture, but I think it's a beginning. I guess I would say that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys, what do you think in terms of maybe the Texas Rangers, who said, it's a little late, but we still need to address this, and what they use it as an opportunity to educate employees, and some other sports franchises I know said that we're going to use this as an opportunity to sit down with our employees and educate them on some things that they may not know, may not be aware of. How you guys feel about that? Taking an opportunity to do that.
I just chime in. Go ahead, Raquel. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We definitely need to be educated, because if we can be very honest with ourselves, I didn't know that Juneteenth exists until 4 years ago. So a lot of us, even people of color, educated people of color, didn't know what Juneteenth was. So I'm thankful for the brother that brought it to my attention and challenged me to celebrate it as I celebrated the 4th of July. Now the 4th of July is just another day off for me. I don't necessarily celebrate it anymore. So I think it's important, because for us, being educated Black individuals, we didn't know what Juneteenth was until, 4 or 5 years ago. So I think that's very important, and it needs to be taught across the board. Just as we've talked about in the past, how important it is to teach Black history in the schools. And we know that they're taking Black history out of the schools. So our kids aren't educated about who they are. We go to HBCUs and we get some education then, but if you go to a predominantly white college, you're still not being educated about who you are. It's easy for them to teach us their history, but they haven't necessarily been willing to teach us our history. So I think for those companies, those organizations that are going to step up and start teaching their people about Juneteenth, it's huge. I think it's late, but I still think it's very important for it to happen.
Yeah. Opens a dialogue for me, Marv. I mean, it's something like Raquel just said, a lot of people didn't even know. So it opens a dialogue for both Black and white people, and that's important. That's really important. Yeah. So the stamp that's been put on it to say we're going to celebrate it, and that's important. I mean, that gives the Black people, in my estimation, another vehicle to explain to their kids the history of African Americans in this country. So for people, Black people are specifically talking about, it's a great thing, because they'll have the day off, they'll be able to celebrate it. It's what you do with that. Is it just another day that you roll over and go to sleep? Or is it a day that you're going to put some meat behind the celebration? And so for the leagues to do it, hey, you take it for what it's worth and you move forward, but you educate your kids going forward, and you make sure that we make something of this new celebratory spirit that some of the professional leagues in white America has.
Right. Well said. I think that was the biggest thing for me. We always talk about just the gestures and the words, and it doesn't really mean anything. So I think it was pretty huge that Texas said the Rangers said we were going to take a day and educate our staff and our employees on this day, what it means. So I do think that that's some substance behind the words. So I agree with a lot with what Raquel said, but at the end of the day, it's a step forward. It's progress. I don't want to tear everybody down, but I think it was a step in the right direction. So well said.
And we do have a comment from
Facebook
on this topic. Is from Kevin Banks. Actually, it's from YouTube. I'm sorry, from YouTube, from Kevin Banks, and he says, although late, it is good that the leagues are making an important step forward. Let's make sure it isn't the last step. Continued progress is needed.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well said, Kevin. I think that's kind of what we were talking about. It has to be sustained. I think we've seen this in the past where we have a day or a week or a month of this kind of action, and then all of a sudden we forget all about it. Let's see what the sustainability is going to be from this, and moving forward, hopefully this is something that we adopt.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Raquel, you had something to add?
No, I agree. I think we're all on the same page with this one. It's a great start, but there's so much more work to be done, so it doesn't end here. Although it's a great start, I still feel like it's late, but I am thankful that now we are being seen and being heard. I just hate that it had to come down to 8 minutes and 26 seconds.
Absolutely. Well said. All right, moving on. Lead Dak Prescott's favorite title or favorite topic, I should say. Dak Prescott. He signed his franchise tag with the Dallas Cowboys, $31.4 million on Monday. What do you guys think that means for Dak, the Cowboys, moving forward? What do you guys think? Lee, I'm gonna start with you because this is your wheelhouse.
Thank you, because I like to educate the people at first and then let them chime in because they need help. So a lot of people need help on this topic, but I said it from the beginning. One, he was going to sign his franchise tag. I knew that, and for those that I talked to, he was going to sign it end of June, early July, and he'll get the long-term deal before July 15th. Look, for all these people, and I hear it, but I can't believe those people that actually watch football that think that Dak Prescott doesn't deserve this money. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And I question whether they're true football fans when they say this stuff. I mean, just real quick, Bob, you know me, I like to throw out a couple of numbers just to help the folks out.
We knew this was coming.
Hey, this is my contribution to all the people, okay? That's what I try to do. Passing yards, number 2 in the league, right? Number 2 in the league behind Jameis. Touchdowns, number 4 in the league behind Jameis, Russell, and Lamar. Passer rating, number 10 in the league. Passing yards per game, number 2 in the league. Quarterback rating, number 4 in the league. I mean, there's no other person, and I said this all the time, from the quarterback position that's in the top 15 or more categories than Dak Prescott. So why wouldn't he sign the franchise tag? Why wouldn't Dallas want him? And why wouldn't he be considered one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football? The answer to all those questions is he is. And I'm trying to help y'all. I want y'all to be more educated on the football side. So if you disagree, y'all know the number. Call in 803-570-503 because I want to hear you, because I'm about to hear some stuff that's gonna blow my mind. That's what I know. So please, y'all take it over.
LP back there, do we have a mute button? I really need a mute button for this when we start talking about the Cowboys. We need to implement a mute button. We gotta do something.
Come on with it.
Listen. I'm gonna go Raquel because I know you tired of hearing about this. So 8-8 last year to finish the season, right? Was he 8-8?
8-8.
Okay. 5-1 in the division, right? Not bad.
Right.
3-7 outside of the division.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
One playoff win.
Okay.
One playoff win, right?
Two division titles.
So, I mean, what's that? That's like a participation trophy. Yeah, that's like a participation trophy today. You got a conference title. Great. I mean, that looks good. I mean, if you want to pay somebody $31 million for one playoff win, you know what you got behind them? You got Andy Dalton. Ooh. You could have saved yourself $28 million to get what Dak Prescott giving you. That's what all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Oh man, so I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'll say this: the brother's 26 years old. He's a brother. He stood strong and he waited for this price tag that he asked for, that he demanded. So I'm proud. I don't think he's really done a lot of work yet, but I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm hopeful. And I think, anytime a Black man 26 years old, signed a 3-year deal for $123 million. I am proud. I just hope he lives up to it. But more than anything, I'm happy to see the brother stand still, stand tall for what he demanded in the beginning and didn't give in, because so often we do give in. If I had to go just from an athletic standpoint, I would say no. But I'm happy about it.
I just get
Lee, can you help me understand? I mean, he's fighting for one. He's fighting for one more. He's fighting for more money and less years. He wants 4 years. The Cowboys want to give him 5.
Right.
What, because he want to become a free agent, and by the time he's 30, I think that's what it is, right?
Absolutely. Because he's going to look within the next 4 years. Dak Prescott probably will have at least 2 Super Bowls. That's the first thing. But this is the other thing, Marv. I just gave all of you these statistics that shows that he's a top 5 quarterback. You didn't mention one of those statistics, right?
You didn't mention the fact that he don't win. He don't win big games. You didn't mention that.
Marv, he's 40 and 26 in 4 years in the NFL, the second most wins of any quarterback in the league behind Tom Brady. So he definitely wins. But the last thing I'll say is this. Let me give you some names. Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo. All of these guys have gotten paid, but yet Dak has outplayed all of them. And all these guys making $29 to $33 million a year. And you guys sit up here and tell me he's not worth it. Again, I'm trying to help you. But as the psychologists say, you can only help yourself. So help yourself and listen to me, because this is ridiculous. Lamadre, do we have a caller?
We do have a caller on the air. Caller, you are on the air with After the Buzzers Sports Podcast.
Well, I'm calling in. Lee, this is Kevin.
What's up, Kev?
And I had to call in and chime in on this one right here. Marvin's absolutely correct. Hey, Dak Prescott, he's not going to sign a long-term contract by July 15th.
You said he's not
going to do a long. No, he's not going to do a long-term contract by July 15th. If they were going to do it, they would have got it done. My question to you is, if it was Troy Aikman, would they have him do a franchise tag or do a long-term contract?
Well, I'll say this, Kevin. Now, that point, I agree with you. I'm going to help you out a little bit. The thing I'll say about you, Kevin, you're half right and you're struggling a little bit, but I'm going to help you. That last one was good because, yes, if it was Troy Aikman or Tony Romo, the deal would have already been done, right? So that's one thing. But, Kevin, he's definitely going to sign a long-term contract. It's going to be in the neighborhood of $170 to $175 million because this is what they do. Look, guys, remember, Dez Bryant was holding out. He didn't sign his franchise tender. They signed him on July the 15th. DeMarcus Lawrence, the same thing. On the day of, that's what Dallas does. Dak is going to have big-time money, and he's going to continue to be big-time success. So, Kevin, you're half right, bro. Keep listening to me, and your football knowledge will just rise and rise and rise. And I'm going to help you out.
Hey, Lee, you all were talking about black quarterbacks on Saturday.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I think they're going to let him play the entire year before they actually do a long-term contract.
Well, they can't. They would have to do it after the season. But Kevin, trust me, that's only what 3-4 weeks away. The show's not going anyplace. And the week of the 15th, either before or after, call in, and I'll let you say. And I want you to say this: you're the man, Lee, because you were spot on. I appreciate it.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, you guys, let me let you. The show is great. Keep it going.
Appreciate you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right,
Kevin. Appreciate it.
Take care.
And we actually have
this is a good.
No, I was going to say we actually have another call waiting. All right.
All right, go ahead.
You are on the air with After the Buzzer. State your name.
Hello, this is Vincent.
Hi, Vincent.
Look at Raquel.
Hello,
hi, Vincent. She loves Vincent. That's what, she loves Vincent. Hi, Vincent.
Well, look, but you all are so good, though. I mean, you're good, so I appreciate that. I hope Raquel loves Vincent. Look, here's my thing on Dak Prescott, and I live in the Dallas area, so I have to see this probably 3 times as much as everyone else. The reality is, we should have never been seeing all of this about Dak's contract. I mean, the reality is they should have signed him to a contract because it was his time. He was next up. We didn't even hear about Carson Wentz's contract until he signed it. We didn't hear about Jared Goff's contract until he signed it. Jared Goff, you'll remember, Jared Goff's rookie year, they didn't even think that he could read defenses. I mean, he was so bad that they just, and this guy, it was bust. But yet he gets a quiet, $130+ million contract. They don't say anything about it because they don't even want to make a fuss about it. That should have happened with Dak. I mean, it really should have. So whether you like the Cowboys or not, whether you like Dak or not, whether you think he's the top 5 quarterback or not, really all of that, and that can all be debated. But the reality is Dak Prescott, as a 4th-round draft pick who played his entire 4 years of that unbelievable rookie deal, there should have been nothing said about his contract. He should have signed it, and it should have been there. And I will say this also regarding the 4-year versus 5-year. Russell Wilson's second contract was a 4-year contract. So, there's a reason why. Now, we look at it and say, I mean, what's the big difference between 4 and 5 years?
A lot.
But they know that the salary cap is going to go up significantly.
TV money. TV money is going up.
Yeah, because of the TV money. And Dak wants to be in a position to, play out that 4-year deal and then get a bigger deal like Russell Wilson did. So it is the only thing I say, and the Lee read all the stats, and they're real.
Vincent, what they beautiful though? What they beautiful?
They're real stats.
They're beautiful.
I agree.
See, Raquel smile on that. I don't get it.
Look. Deshaun Watson is coming up. We have Patrick Mahomes coming up. We have Lamar Jackson coming up. Those guys, their contracts should not even be in the news until it is signed. I mean, the first time we hear about it is after it's signed. That's how it should be, because that's how it was with Carson Wentz, and that's how it was with Jared Goff. I mean, look at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has made more money than anybody in the NFL. He doesn't have a Super Bowl. He took a team to the Super Bowl, didn't win it, but he has made more money than anybody in the NFL. He was the first quarterback to receive $100 million guaranteed. So we don't hear about that. They don't say anything about it. So there shouldn't be all of this news about Dak and is he going to sign and why can't they get it done? And the guy has done everything that he was supposed to do and more. And he should have got his contract. It should have been quiet. So, but he's the next person up. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. I
appreciate
it. He almost got me a Dak Prescott fan.
Raquel, do you have anything to say to Vincent before he leaves? I mean,
no, Vincent. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for calling me.
Thank you so much. I love it. I love it.
I'm gonna roll with Vincent.
So I think that Vincent definitely brought the knowledge there. He almost got me feeling for Dak Prescott. Almost.
I'm trying to help y'all out, man.
The truth of the matter is he's right. We didn't hear about those other quarterbacks, and they all have one thing in common. They're all white quarterbacks. Why do we have to discuss Dak's contract? Why is it part of the public? Why does the public get to weigh in on his contract? Because there's no other. And I think that point alone, like, I'm proud for him, period. Like, whether he throws the football well, wins, whatever, he's 26, he's a young black man, $123 million, I'm with him 100%.
All right. Well, moving on. We've been on the Cowboys too much. We've been on Dak Prescott too much. So I'm gonna move it in a different direction.
All right.
We got the Washington Redskins. They're gonna retire Bobby Mitchell's number, or jersey, I should say. I'm sorry. But they're gonna leave the racist Redskins logo name as part of the Washington. Kevin Banks, I know you out there. I know you're a Redskins fan. Love to hear how you feel about this. What are your guys' thoughts about this? Is it symbolic? What are your thoughts about retiring his jersey? Tell me what you guys feel. Raquel, what do you think?
Well, this is the deal. I think it's a tough thing to say, hey, Redskins, change your mascot. I think that's a bit too much. It's their history. I think they have the opportunity to still teach and be for us. I think it's a lot to ask them to do away with their Redskins. It's who they are.
Yeah, it's who they are.
So I don't agree with that. I think that's tough because we're African Americans, we're Black, we're proud. There's some things we're not trading in. We're just not going to do it. There's some things we're not going to trade in. We're not trading in Juneteenth, right? We're not trading in those colors that represent us. We're not going to do it, although it could be taken as racist to a certain extent, right? We're not trading it in. So I would want the Redskins to do away with it. However, I think it's huge of them and about time that they retire Bobby's number. It should have happened before now. And that's my biggest issue with everything that's going on in the world. Why do you wait until 8 minutes and 26 seconds? Why does it have to come to that? Why can't we get what we've earned before the world is up in a roar? Why does it have to come to that? So I'm glad that they're doing it. I don't think they should do away with the actual logo for the Redskins. That's crazy to me. But I want them to understand we were human before this. We had feelings before this. We were people before this. We were throwing footballs and catching footballs well before this. So all of a sudden, where was your compassion 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Lee.
Well, look, I'm in shock that you said that. I'm just, you know me, you're a revolutionary. I don't get why you said that with not keeping the Redskin name. Fact of the matter is, more Indians want the name removed than want it to stay. That's the first thing. So that's the first thing. So when you talk to the actual people that say that's a derogatory reference as far as Indian people, they want it removed. And look, the Bobby Mitchell thing is great, but Bobby Mitchell died last year. They should have done it before now. He's been the first Black player since he got there in whatever the year was. So they should have been done that. And they removed the former racist owner statue, removed the Redskin name. That's pitiful. That's bad. That's terrible. And let's take it a step further. If you want it, when you remove that name, just think about the revenue stream that whatever that name that Washington puts on there, New Jersey sales, new everything to promote that. So they'll make money from it. It's really Daniel Snyder just being arrogant, for one, and stubborn without removing that name. That name should have been gone. It should go now. And there is no justification for keeping the Redskin name. And as we try to say, we are more socially conscious now. How can they keep that name? There is no other derogatory name. As all these professional sports start to change their names, the Redskins should change that name as well. That, in my estimation, that's a disgrace to the NFL.
Yeah, and the timing, it just doesn't feel right. Like we all know his number, his jersey should have been retired long before this. The timing just feels a little bit off, but it is significant because I think you guys probably know the Redskins have only retired one other jersey beyond his. So it's not like they've made a habit of retiring a lot of jerseys. And you got to think about this franchise. I mean, it's a rich franchise in terms of its history. You got Joe Theismann and you got Art Monk and Mark May, John Riggins. I mean, you got some guys we can go back and say that you could really think about. So I think it's significant in that aspect that they did retire it, but the timing just feels a little off to me. It doesn't sit that well with me. And in terms of the logo, yeah, it should have been gone. It should have been gone a long time ago. That's the way I feel about it. And you're right. Native Americans have come out, very forcefully about how they feel about the logo. But, here we sit. Maybe this is a move in the right direction, but I do think the logo needs to go.
And Bobby Mitchell, Marv, as we all know, was a great NFL player. It wasn't just a good one.
Yes.
It was a great one, right? And so for them to come out now and do that, I mean, it's going along with the signs of the time. Do the right thing now and get rid of the Redskin logo. That's ridiculous, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, moving forward, we have Brett Favre. He got himself in a little bit of hot water recently with some of his comments about Colin Kaepernick and trying to compare his struggle with that of Pat Tillman and what he did leaving the NFL for military service. So, some people didn't think that it was just that he said that. So how do you guys feel about the comparison, and what do you think about the two? And we'll just kind of go from there. Raquel, I'll start with you.
There's no comparison. That's like comparing strawberries to oranges. There's no comparison. I think it was an idiotic comment. I think he should have just shut his mouth. Don't comment. Don't say stupid things. It goes back to white privilege.
Why do you think it's idiotic, Raquel? I'm curious.
Going into the military to defend a country that has always defended you. Go into the military for a country who is always giving you your right. Go into the military for a country who allowed you to hang Black men. Yeah, okay, big deal. This country has done a lot for white people. We all know that. So I don't see the big deal. He wanted to go into the military. Great, go into the military. All right. But you're talking about comparing it to Colin taking a knee because Black men, women, and children are being killed by cops, people that we pay tax dollars to, and it's unjust. You're killing Black men without firearms. You're killing Black men that are surrendering to arrest. You're killing Black men who say, hey, I have a CWP, let me pull it out, but you kill me, but you want me to pull it out of my pocket. Comparison, it was an idiotic comment, and he should shut up before I don't like him anymore. Don't talk about this anymore, because you're not comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. You're talking about strawberry to oranges. There's no comparison. You should go into, if you feel so strongly about the military, for a country who has done everything for you, for a country who has allowed Blacks to build this country on their backs, go into the military. Hats off to you, but it does not compare to Colin and what he did. There's no comparison.
But remember also, right. and Lee, to touch on this, remember, Pat Tillman was getting ready to get paid.
Yeah.
He was getting ready to sign a multi-million-dollar deal with Arizona, and he decided to go over and fight for his country because this was after 9/11. It was something that he felt very strongly about. And we also have to remember that he lost his life over this.
Lost his life, absolutely.
We can't gloss over the fact. Yeah, we can't gloss over the fact that he did lose his life defending, this country. No matter how we feel about what that represents, he did lose his life. So I did want to give a little bit of context to that. That was a big deal during the time that he did that. So I think that's kind of where he was coming from.
Serving our country. Thank you for dying for America. Great job, Pat.
Please.
I told you, Marv, she's rough, man. She's rough.
Marv,
are you finished, Marv?
Yeah.
Look, Raquel, you gotta, when you look at it and you put it in the context of how Brett was saying it, he was talking about the sacrifice, right? After 9/11, as Marv said, he gave up a very promising NFL career to say, I'm going to go now join the military and fight overseas, and requested to go overseas. He gave up his career, literally, to do that, very similar to Kaepernick giving up his NFL career to, because the owners blackballed him. So there is a parallel to both of those situations. I do agree. I don't, the man ultimately gave his life for the country. So I do think that, in my opinion anyway, this is my opinion, I think him dying is a little higher of a degree. He gave his ultimate life than Kaepernick. Kaepernick still got paid, still had the Nike contract, still did a lot of other things, right? And has made a living. Pat Tillman died, so I tend to give
a lot of black men have died.
Well, but we're comparing those two right now. We're not comparing a lot of black men.
Colin kneeled for all the black men that died again.
Yeah, but Colin still got paid and is getting paid. And Pat Tillman gave his life. There is no comparison. As a person that has been in the military, I can say this: that was the ultimate sacrifice. Colin Kaepernick still gotten paid. Nike paid Kaepernick from the time he knelt all the way.
You're talking about after the fact. Kaepernick didn't know what dollars he was going to get when he was taking that chance and taking that risk. He couldn't predict what he was going to get from the NFL.
He never lost the Nike endorsement, though. He never lost the Nike endorsement. So he knew all along he was getting paid. Now, I'm not downplaying what Cap did, but what I'm saying is Pat Tillman gave his life for this country, and that we have to give ultimate kudos to. Kaepernick has still gotten paid, still getting paid, and so I don't compare those apple to apple. I think Brett was a little bit too forceful in giving Cap that ultimate goal to bring him up to Pat Tillman's status, because I don't agree that they're the same, but it's in the reverse. I don't think what Cap, look, I commend Cap, but Cap was only, he lost his football career and he may get it back. Pat Tillman lost his life. He's not coming back. God rest his soul. So I disagree. And I think Tillman paid the ultimate price.
Yeah. You know,
for
just
a country that has always defended him, for a country that has always loved him and cherished him.
Yeah, it's not about the country and defending. Well, it is.
It is about this country. It is absolutely about this country. If I was so proud like I am of our heritage, yeah, I'm gonna go fight too. I would sacrifice money to save my people. I would too, especially for if a country has taken care of me, loved me. I can see that. That makes sense to me. I can see why Pat went over and fought. It makes perfect sense to me. I just don't think.
He gave up quite a bit, Raquel. He gave up quite a bit, a multi-million-dollar contract to go over and request to go over there to the war zone. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Thank you, Pat, for defending our country.
You can't sugarcoat that one. That's a big deal. And
I'm not sure. Thank you, Pat, for defending our country.
Compare the two acts, though. I think that's what Favre was doing. And compare the two acts.
Yeah, well, I think this is something that can definitely be debated at a later time. I think both sides make good points. But it's a touchy subject, and I think that's why Brett got a little bit creamed today in the media about it. But he did try to soften it by saying they're both going to be, they're both heroes. They'll be immortalized as heroes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a touchy subject, and I can see both ways of it. So we're going to lighten it up a little bit. We're going to change directions. Top 5 wide receivers in NFL history. There's a lot we can choose from, but, let's Lee, I'm going to let, I'm going to go first because I know Lee always bring it.
Yeah.
So number 5 for me, Steve Largent. If you remember, Seattle Seahawks, almost, 850 catches, maybe close to maybe 13,000 yards. Over 100 TDs, Steve Largent. Steve Largent was good. Then I'm going to go with Chris Carter, over 13,000 yards. I know what he did with Minnesota. Chris Carter had a hell of a career, a little controversial off the field. Yeah, that's it. That's all he did was catch touchdowns. Number 3 for me is Terrell Owens. We all know T.O. Should be a Hall of Fame. He should be a Hall of Famer. I don't know what's going on with all this craziness with T.O. But T.O. is number 3 for me.
I thought he made the Hall of Fame in 2018.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer
already.
He did make
it? Okay. Yeah. I'm a little behind. Thank you, Raquel. Number 2, Randy Moss for sure. Randy to me changed the game. Yeah. Randy, multi-sport athlete. He could have played basketball if he wanted to, but Randy was a bad boy. And number 1, I don't think there's any debate. Jerry Rice, number 1, all-time greatest. You can't debate what Jerry did in San Francisco coming from an HBCU. Nobody really knew about him coming out. The things he did in San Francisco, all-time great Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
so,
Raquel.
Lee, we're going to let you go, Lee.
Go to Raquel. Ladies first, because I don't know what's going to come out of her mouth.
You're not the host today. This is what Marv says.
Okay. Well, Marv, either way.
I'll go because I do want Lee to have all the time he needs because he's going to be long-winded on this.
That's going to be very short because I'm trying to help people out here.
I'll tell you what. So, Marv, I'm telling you, mothers, sisters and brothers from other mothers, I swear. My 5 and 4 are a little bit different. I had Calvin Johnson as my number 5. I got the opportunity to see him play, so I like him personally because I actually got to see him play. And he had a pretty good career as well. Larry Fitzgerald is my number 4. 2016 Walter Payton Man of the Year. And going into the 2018 season, the brother had over 1,000 catches, 15,000 plus yards, 110 touchdowns, ranked number 2 in receiving yards in the NFL. My number 3 is T.O. 2018 Hall of Famer. So he is in the Hall of Fame, or 9 seasons, over 100,000 yards. 8 of those seasons, I think he had 10 plus touchdowns, over 1,000 receptions, 153 touchdowns, almost 16,000 yards in his career. Yeah. Randy Moss changed hip hop forever. Randy Moss.
That's right.
Became hip hop, and I think for us, hip hop means a lot to us. It's our culture. But Rookie of the Year. Oh God, he was fun to watch, man. His speed, his hands, his hops. He was fun. I think he made a lot of black boys say, "I'm going into the NFL." 10 seasons, over 1,000 yards, 156 touchdowns, 15,000 plus receiving yards. Again, Rookie of the Year. Randy Moss is my number 2. Number 1, Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver to ever catch a ball. 10 first-time All-Pro, 13 Pro Bowls, 3 Super Bowls. That speaks volumes. 197 touchdowns. Shit. 22,000, almost 23,000 yards. 1,500 plus catches. He was phenomenal.
He played a long time. They played 20 years. Yeah, he did. You amass a lot of yards when you play that long. But yeah.
Don't hate. Go ahead.
I'm not hating. Jerry Rice is okay.
Okay.
He was even productive when he went to Los Angeles when he was old.
I'm not hating on Jerry Rice. I'm not hating on Jerry Rice. Look, the thing about me, Raquel, I'm different from you. I just state the facts. That's the truth. I tell the truth. That's all I can do.
Well, let me tell you something, Lee. The stats are the stats, and you can twist that however you like.
I'm not going to twist it.
These are real stats, okay? These are real stats, buddy. Absolutely. These are opinions.
Absolutely. Okay, number 5, the playmaker, Michael Irvin, Dallas Cowboys, the playmaker. The thing about the playmaker was, first of all, they were so good, the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s, that, they were so balanced. You had a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame running back, and a Hall of Fame receiver. So the numbers wise for Irvin it's going to be skewed a little bit. It's going to be lower, but the playmaker, anytime they needed a first down 10 yards slant, Troy put it on the money, Irvin go up and catch it. Beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. Plus, he got 3 Super Bowls. All these people y'all naming ain't never sniffed a Super Bowl. The man got 3 Super Bowls.
Jerry Rice has 3 Super Bowls.
The playmaker.
Jerry Rice has 3 Super Bowls.
Well, Jerry Rice does. The rest of them don't. That's why Michael Irvin. The only reason I grade Irvin down is because the number-wise in the rankings, he's not high. So that's my number 5. My number 4 is Larry Fitzgerald. I saw you did some homework, Raquel, and done a little research. I'll give you a little credit there. But Larry Fitzgerald, number 2 in yards, number 2 in receptions, number 6 in touchdowns. Larry Fitzgerald, a bad man. He's played a long time, so he will get that the yardage and all that. That's going to increase. But I'll go with Larry Fitzgerald as my number 4. My number 3 is Randy Moss. He's a bad man. I give you some credit, Raquel, again, as far as the hip hop culture, and he brought that in. He had the swag, straight cash, homie. You know what I'm saying
about Randy Moss. Homie.
But a great deep threat, a tremendous deep threat. But fear. I saw him get 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. One day I almost cried myself to sleep that night. Randy Moss a bad man. You know, he's number 4 in yards, number 15 in receptions, number 2 in touchdowns in his rank. My number 2 is Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is a better all-time receiver than Randy Moss. I don't care. Anybody, I love for people to debate that because I want to hear the fans that will debate that. But Terrell Owens, number 2, he's number 3 in yards, number 8 in receptions, and number 3 in touchdowns. And he is number 5 all-time in total touchdowns. T.O. is a bad man. Well, I get the difference between T.O. and Randy Moss. Remember this. You never had T.O. on a team where he didn't produce. Think the Oakland Raider years for Randy Moss and his return to Minnesota. Not a very productive receiver. Attitude was bad. That's why I put T.O. above him at number 2. And number 1 is Jerry Rice. I agree with all of you about Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is the best receiver to ever play the game. He is. Now, I will say he was in an innovative offense with Bill Walsh that helped him out, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not gonna downgrade him for that. I'm not gonna downgrade him for that. Jerry Rice is a bad man. So that's my top 5.
I mean, as long as we all in agreement on Jerry Rice, I don't really care all the rest that you said, Lee. Jerry Rice, number 1, we good. So we all in agreement on that. So
and we actually have a comment from Facebook that lists their top 5. This is Kevin Banks. Says number 5, Larry Fitzgerald. Number 4, Marvin Harrison. Number 3, Chris Carter. Number 2, Randy Moss. And number 1, this theme keeps repeating over and over again, Jerry Rice.
Rice.
Those are pretty good. Those are pretty good people. You kind of lost me with Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison
put up numbers, man.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison caught a lot of balls, but at crunch time, you can never find the man. Marvin Harrison, I don't want to hear that crap. Kevin, that was good. You should have not put him in there, though. I think we have a caller, Lamadre.
We do indeed have a caller. Caller, you are on the air with After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. Please state your name.
Hello, this is Vincent.
Oh, I need to hear from Vincent.
Well, and let me tell you, I wasn't going to call in until Lee made that comment that he made, talking about Jerry Rice played a lot of years. Now, you made that comment.
20 years, Vincent. That's a fact.
But you will remember, Lee, when we were talking about the running backs.
I get
it was okay when Emmett played 15 years and everybody else played fewer years, including Barry Sanders only playing 10. And you said, well, that's his fault. I don't have it. That's his fault. So I had to bring that up, Lee. Now, it's okay when it supports you, but it's
my number 1. Vincent, hold on.
That's exactly right, Vincent.
My number 1 receiver was Jerry Rice. I didn't knock him down for that.
Vincent is saying, Lee, we need some consistency from you. We need to be across the board. We need consistency.
Cowboys.
All I said, Vincent, was this. All I said was this. He played 20 years. That's all I said.
He played a lot of years, and you expected to have those yards. Emmett Smith played 15 years, and Barry Sanders played 10. So what do you expect? Okay, so
let me say this. Let me say this, Vincent. I graded him as number 1 off of the facts. And one thing about me, I'm not a hypocrite. I graded him number 1. I graded him number 1. But let me say this. Jerry Rice was a great receiver. I have no qualms about that. But hey, every time they went up against the Cowboys, what happened?
There you go.
I'm just saying that's a fact. We shut them boys down. We went into San Francisco and beat them. And every time they played us, except one time when they had Dion, and they cheated us that year because Dion pass interference against Mike Brown. That's the way it is. So I give Jerry Rice the credit as number 1. I give Jerry Rice credit. But let me ask you this. Vincent. Do you take? Would you take T.O. over Randy Moss? I saw Raquel and Marvin round their face up when I said that.
My 5. Here are my 5 in this order, Lee. Number 5, I went with Larry Fitzgerald. And by the way, I think all of you had some really good lists. Larry Fitzgerald, number 5. Number 4, I went with Chris Carter.
Oh, I know.
Number 3,
Carter,
I went with T.O. at number 3.
Oh, no.
Randy Moss at 2, and Jerry at 1. Now, you gave all the stats, Lee, but now you left off. If you look at yards per reception, T.O. was 14.8. Randy Moss was 15.6. So you conveniently throw the stats out there to support you.
Vincent, hold on, no. I love you, but Vincent, let me ask you this. The Oakland years for Randy Moss. The guy was trash. Let's be honest. You got to tell the truth about that.
But we're looking at overall stats, Lee.
We're looking at overall Lee.
Overall stats, Lee.
You have never tell me a year when Terrell Owens was trash.
We're not looking at 1 or 2 seasons. We're looking at overall stats. We're looking at
the entire career. We're looking at this entire
career. That's right. Well, Randy had more touchdowns than T.O.
Career, correct?
Randy had more touchdowns than T.O.
Randy had 3 more touchdowns than T.O. Right?
Well, that's more.
Vincent.
That's more.
But when you look at it, when you look at receptions, T.O. is number 8. Moss is 15. Right? So when you look at receptions and when you look at yards, T.O. is 3rd, Moss is 4th. The issue with me with Moss, he's a great player, but Vincent, you know this as well as I do. The guy only played sometimes when he wanted to. The Oakland years, the Viking years. That is a fact. That's not my opinion. That's why Minnesota traded him. That's why Oakland traded him. T.O., you can never say that about T.O. T.O. has produced every place he's been. T.O. has produced every place. Especially when he played with the Dallas Cowboys for 3 years.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. Lee T.O. was traded about 3 times, so let's just throw that in there now. Okay?
No. T.O. was traded 1 time. T.O. was traded 1 time. That was San Francisco to Philly. The rest of the time he signed as a free agent. Get it right, Vincent.
Vincent, thank you for your call, Vincent.
Okay, Lee. All right. Hey,
really appreciate the call, man.
Everybody. Good lift by everybody. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right,
I'm trying to help the people out.
Let's get Lee a little calm. We're gonna transition to a little NBA, kind of change up the pace a little bit. So, as outlined in the NBA CBA, the force majeure permits the NBA to terminate the CBA and reduce the team's obligation to pay players for games that are canceled on account of catastrophic events. What do you guys think about this, and do you think it's going to affect what players decide to do? Raquel, let me start with you.
You know what? I don't think it'll really determine what players will do per se. I'm kind of in the middle of the road on this one. I think the collective bargaining agreement, I don't have much of an opinion. I'm in the middle of the road on this one. I could see it on both sides of the fence. And I wouldn't be against any choice in this situation. So I'm dead in the middle.
I feel like, the season is already 80% over, right? So what, they're going to lose 20% of their salary? They already millionaires. So what? That's how I feel. What's the league average salary right now? 7.7 million, 7.7 million is the league average salary. The league minimum is about almost 900,000.
900,000, yeah.
After you play a year in the league, that goes up to about 1.4 million in terms of what your salary is. I don't care. Who cares? What I would care about is if they were talking about how's it going to affect the people who work at the arenas that's not getting the paycheck.
That's my thought. I think that should be the focus as well. The people that have the day-to-day jobs that need that paycheck, that are living paycheck to paycheck. I think that's where it matters the most. When we talk about the players, it's
this is ridiculous to me. I think the focus is in the wrong point, but I know people have to talk about it because it's the NBA and we're talking about the season starting back up, but I think it's utterly ridiculous. Lee, I know you got a different viewpoint.
Let me ask you this, Marvin. I'd like to get your opinion on this. So if they don't complete the season, right? And they don't play the rest of the season and complete it, they can open it up, right? And they can open the CBA back up. And now they can start to negotiate different splits and a lot of different things in the CBA. What do you think about that?
And
yeah.
I mean, right.
As a player, you can lose a lot of the gains that you've gotten over the years. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, but if I'm Chris Paul and I'm making $38.9 million this year, and I lose 20% of my salary, what am I at, $38.1 million? I mean, it's like, what does it really matter to me when you're talking about that kind of money? I mean, you're not really negotiating much, in my opinion. You know, these players aren't really losing. Now, if we were talking about a whole season not being played, that might be a different conversation for me. But with 80% of the season being done, and you talking about opening back up after the season, it don't really hold much for me. I just, this conversation to me is just kind of ludicrous, especially when we talk about players.
I mean, I feel the same. I don't think it's worth even talking about, to be honest. I mean, whatever. Okay. I don't think it holds enough weight to even have a conversation. Whatever happens, happens. Like I said, I'm dead in the middle of the road on this one. I don't think it's worth even talking about.
You know
but Lee, also remember the owners still have the power as to whether they will pay their players or not, though. Like, the owners can still pay their players. Yeah. You know, they don't. Yeah. So.
But Marv, think about it though. Okay, they got this beautiful thing called the Supermax and all of that stuff that the players are getting paid off of that. If they open that back up and say we're going to pull the Supermax now, we want to throw that out of the collective bargaining agreement. And so now there's some risk on their side too. But
right.
What I'm saying is that by completing the season, you don't have that risk. But by not completing the season, they can open it back up. And some of the gains that you've gotten from years of negotiating, and you said it, the high salaries and the minimum salaries that are so high, you could theoretically lose that. That's one of the reasons that playing the season is so important. That I think too, not maybe to the Chris Pauls of the world and the LeBrons and the Kevin Durants, but think about the 10th through 15th player on the bench.
Yeah, no, I mean, very good point. I'm definitely not discounting that, but when we think about the NBA, that's who we think about, the Carmelos and the LeBrons. We don't think about those mid-level, mid-tier players. But it's a good point. It's a very valid point that you just brought up, Lee. So moving forward, so we can just kind of keep this going a little bit. With the NBA getting started back up with the playoffs right around the corner, starting back at the end of July, I want to hear what you guys think from the Eastern Conference perspective, Western Conference perspective. Who do you think is going to be in the conference finals, into the NBA finals, and ultimately, who wins the chip? Raquel, I'm going to let you go first because I already know where you're going with this, but we're going to let you go and spit this out.
I want LeBron to get number 4. So there's no doubt in my mind the Lakers wins the championship. East,
who Milwaukee, they're going to play, Raquel?
Milwaukee. I'm sorry?
Who are they going to play in the Western Conference finals?
The Clippers. I mean, they'll play the Clippers, and it'll be a great series. But we'll send them home crying. We'll send Kawhi home, but it'll be a great series. It'll be fun to watch. Boston and Milwaukee in the East. I like to see them play. In all honesty, you know how I feel about Kyrie. I want nothing more than to beat him in the championship. Nothing more but to have him eat the wood on the floor. So I think Milwaukee is a better team. The Bucks are certainly a better team to me. But if Boston could get past them, I would love to see LeBron punish Kyrie in a way that, little boys who've been really bad and their dad got to step in and give them a spanking and have to spank.
Well, I'm gonna go. I mean, I agree with you in the Eastern Conference. I think it'll be Boston and Milwaukee, Lee. I just think that they're the two best teams in the East. Philly just ain't got enough for me. That Boston-Milwaukee series will be interesting because there is one X factor in that series that people don't talk about enough, and it's Kemba Walker. If you get that big game, Kemba, that steps up the way that he typically does in big games, that could change that series. The Greek Freak gonna get his, but if you got Kemba and Jason Tatum, and then you can get Jaylen Brown putting up some numbers, I think that becomes a very interesting series. And Boston is really good defensively. So we saw the recipe against the Greek Freak before. Make him shoot jumpers. Don't let him crowd the lane. Don't let him do the stuff he does. So I'm picking Boston. I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to pick Boston in 7 to win that series. And then on the West, you got the Clips and the Lakers. I mean, I think it's pretty much set that those will be the two teams in the Western Conference Finals. And I'm going with the Clippers. I think the Clippers are deep. I think that with Lou Williams coming off the bench, Montrezl Harrell, they got shooting. They got a lot of bodies that they can throw at LeBron. And I just don't know if the Lakers got enough shooting. The game slows down in the playoffs. I mean, I know the ball is going to be in LeBron's hand all the time, but is Danny Green, because you know he can be wishy-washy, is he going to hit shots that's going to be necessary for the Lakers to advance? And I just don't know. So I'm going to go with the Clippers. And then, you know, we got to remember Kawhi and Paul George. We don't know what Paul George will get, but we'll know what Kawhi will get. So I'm going with Boston and the Clips in the finals, and the Clippers, to me, going to be NBA champions.
Do you think the short season favors any other team to sneak in there, Mark?
No, not really. I mean, because if you were playing like the NCAA championship and you got one game,
right,
maybe. But that's 7 games. It always kind of filters out the mess. You know what I mean? Anybody can get lucky for a game, but that 7-game series and you got to win 4 of them, it always filters itself out. So, nah, not really.
I'm gonna be quick.
I mean, I know some people. Yeah, I know some people talking about some other teams, but nah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick because I don't want Raquel to say I'm hogging at the show. So very quickly, the East, I like Toronto and Milwaukee in the championship game. Toronto's record this year is better at the point that they finished. It's better than it was with Kawhi on their team last year. So it seemed like they gelled. They're number 2 in the East right now. So I like Toronto and Milwaukee to play. And I think Milwaukee's going to come out of the East. I like the Clippers and the Lakers to play. I like the Lakers to beat the Clippers. And I do think, Raquel, the Lakers will win the championship. I really do. By the way, Avery Bradley's not going to play. They're talking about signing J.R. Smith.
Oh, Avery's not going to play?
Avery's not. Avery has a 13-year-old kid who has respiratory issues, and he's afraid that they might get COVID and that might affect his son. That's why he's not going to play. But the Lakers are talking about replacing him with J.R. Smith. And, you know,
I mean,
J.R. can get hot. J.R. can get hot.
Right. It depends on which J.R. you get. We don't know.
Yeah. I like J.R. I like J.R. next to LeBron, though.
I think the Lakers bench is going to be that Achilles heel. Nobody talks about it. They don't have a good bench, and they don't have enough shooting. I'm telling you, the game slows down. You talk about the Clippers. They got shooting. They got guys that come off the bench to get their own points. Lou Williams can give you 30 in a heartbeat if you know, some of the other guys aren't scoring. So I just think the Clips going to be too tough, man. That's just
Anthony Davis matchup, Marv, is where I give.
If Anthony is healthy, I think
the Lakers over the Clippers, because they don't have it. I know they're talking about signing Joakim Noah. But I don't think they have an answer for Anthony Davis. I really don't. I think that's the X factor for me for the Lakers.
But I haven't seen Anthony Davis in big moments yet, except for in college. I hadn't seen him, and he's always like Raquel said, he always nicked up. He's always hurt. You know, I got to see it. I know I don't give him LeBron. I know I'm a
factor. He has to be healthy. We cannot win the championship without Davis. He has to be there. We need that second punch. But if he's healthy, if he plays the entire playoffs, and Lord, if we can get him to play 7 games, because I do believe it'll go 6 or 7. We have to have him to win it, no doubt about it. It's a lot for LeBron to beat the Clippers by himself. Although he is indeed Mr. MVP when it comes to the finals. He should have won an MVP in the finals. They lost, but I'm not going to talk about that.
I think Anthony Davis will be the MVP if the Lakers win the championship.
But listen, y'all, don't forget. I mean, you got Kawhi and you got Paul George guarding LeBron all game, switching on, switching off, coming off them pick and rolls. They not going to lead. That's a lot.
Paul George can't guard him. Paul George
can't call LeBron. He can't.
Kawhi does a good job.
He will get the thing with Paul, and I love Paul's game, but he might show up 2 games out of 7, and that'll work in our favor.
But Paul George offensively, he tends to kind of fade sometimes, but he's pretty consistent.
He's a good defender.
He's not going to be able to guard LeBron 7 games.
Nobody can guard LeBron, but you can always make it difficult. And I think that they both.
It's fine. He's played difficult his whole career. So when you say difficult in LeBron, he has had nothing easy. Nothing.
We know. So this
you're not gonna win. You're not gonna win that LeBron argument.
I'm not. I need to just let it go. I need to stop.
But I do think, honestly, if the Lakers win the championship, it won't be because of LeBron. It'll be because of Anthony Davis. And I think Anthony Davis will be the MVP if they win it, because he's that big of a factor to the Lakers winning, and he's going to be the biggest mismatch that the Lakers can put out there. You're right. Kawhi will offset LeBron. Kawhi Leonard a bad man. He's a bad man. But
it's just ugly. Oh.
The answer, but he's so efficient, Marv. He's an efficient scorer. He's an efficient scorer. So that part of it, a wash. Is the Anthony Davis factor, and you're right. Because every time he falls, you think he's not going to get up. That's the key.
He's not going to get up. So it'll be interesting though. I'm ready to see kind of how it plays out. Even though I don't think they should be playing, I put that on the record. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So we'll finish this little segment up with our top 5 small forwards in NBA history. We're gonna go real quick. Raquel, hit us with your top 5 real quick.
Kevin Durant is my number 5, and I didn't want to give him number 5. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I didn't want to give him number 5. Kevin's my number 5. 2 MVPs, 2 rings. He doesn't have a ring if he doesn't go with a team of juggernauts. He couldn't do it by himself. I hate the fact that he went to the team that beat him. How he got beat.
Yeah, that was awful.
So for me, it was a struggle for me to even give him number 5. But the boy can play. The boy can score. So he's my number 5. Larry Bird is my number 3. I don't even want to talk about
Who was 4, Raquel? Who was 4?
Excuse me. I meant Larry Bird is my number 4. My number 4. I'm sorry. Larry Bird is my number 4. 3 MVPs, 2 championships. Number 3, I have Julius Erving. Where am I? Number 2, Scottie Pippen. I love Scottie, y'all. Scottie is my number 2, 6 championships, Hall of Famer, average 16 points. I mean, Scottie's my number 2, and he's my solid number 2. Wouldn't replace him with any other guy. And obviously, LeBron's my number 1. 3 championships. He does it all. He still looks so good at his age. Gold medalists, 4 regular season MVPs, 2 final MVPs, 3 championships, final stats, 29, 10, 7. It's hard to compete with him when you look at just stats in the finals. Right now, he's averaging over career 27.7 rebounds, 7 assists. He does it all. I don't think we'll ever – he's the greatest of all time to me. Michael Jordan held that for many, 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 many moons with me until LeBron. He's my all-time favorite, best small forward to ever play the game. So LeBron's my number 1.
Marv, I want you to go last, Marv, please.
No, I'm gonna run through because I hear you got some things you need to say. So let me run through these real quick. So for the sake of the show. So number 5 for me, this might be a little controversial, but I'm gonna go with Elgin Baylor. I think a lot of people forget how good Elgin was. I think he averaged maybe 27, 28 per game over his career, 13 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. Elgin Baylor was a bad boy. So for me, Scottie Pippen gonna be number 4. That's my number 4 small forward. Scottie speaks for herself. Number 3, if I'm going on trajectory, what they gonna be when they in their career, I gotta go with Kevin Durant. I mean, I just, in terms of the scoring prowess, I think even though he went to Golden State and we didn't like the move, I think he did expand his game in Golden State. He became better defensively. He was a better shot blocker. There was a lot of things he did assist-wise, protecting the rim. I think he really expanded his game, which, I don't like that he made the move, but I did see some growth in his game. Number 2 for me, Larry Legend. I mean, come on. You got to put Larry at number 2. Larry could give you whatever you need. Katie, don't even make that face, man. We might not like Larry, but Larry was the man. He could do what he needed to do.
I'm not saying anything.
And number 1, LeBron. Let's keep it at that. All right, Lee.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it up. First of all, my head's still hurting from when I just could. Number 5, I couldn't break the tie at number 5, and I'm sorry. I had number 5, Larry Bird and Scottie Pippen for different reasons. Bird was a tremendous player, tremendous scorer. He, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. But Scottie got the 6 titles. He only averaged 16 points and 6 rebounds, 5 assists. I just locked for different reasons.
And when you play with Michael Jordan take 47 shots a game.
Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time. Raquel. That's not even a question.
But Lee, you remember you used that same argument with Michael Irvin, though. I mean, come on now. Yeah,
Okay, but I get it, Mark. That's why, but Mark, that's why I locked them in together at 5 for different reasons. Bird, a great player. Bird was a great player, got 3 titles. Scottie got 6. I mean, so if you want me to pick one, I would put Scottie just a tad above Bird, but for me, for different reasons, they're right there locked in. My number 4 was the Doctor, Julius Erving, a bad man. And even prior to him going to Philly, his ABA was just 28-13. His first 7 years in the ABA, 28-13, 4 assists, 2 block shots. The guy was, the afro and Dr. J was a bad man. It dipped when he got to the NBA. But still, he was the first one. No, I take that back. He was the second one. My number 3 was the first one. That's Elgin Baylor. You're absolutely right, Marv. Elgin Baylor was a bad man. And you're right, 27, 13, and 4. And then, Marv, his first 7 seasons, 30, 15. And then in 1 year, 60-61, 30, 18. This man was unbelievable. And he was the first one, high riser, finger roll. So Elgin Baylor was my number 3. My number 2 is KD. I have no idea why our friend, and I know she knows sports, but it's a bias towards KD. KD's a bad man. And you can't take the 2 titles away from KD. He got 2 titles, 2 MVPs. He's number 2, 27 points. Hell, he's approaching number 1, to be honest with you. Let me say this. In the next 5 years, KD could become the greatest small forward of all time. He's that good. And let me say this. When they go head-to-head, Mar, LeBron be getting that work. Let's be honest.
That work. Hey, look.
I love LeBron for his all-around game, but the efficiency of KD, Marvin, you played, so I'm gonna throw it back to you. The efficiency of how he scores is tremendous, and so KD is my number 2, and right now LeBron is the number 1. But I tell you, KD closing that gap, and in the next 5 seasons, KD could take it over.
No, I mean, I agree. I think
5 more seasons, number 1. He's going to be hurt for the rest of his career. You'll see that. You'll see him struggle for the remainder of his career with injury.
I don't think so.
Here's the thing about KD, where I think that if anybody can be effective off an Achilles injury, it will be him because of the way that he scores. He doesn't use a lot of athleticism. He's what I call a professional scorer. He can get to anywhere on the floor, pull up, shoot over you. He's 6'10", really 7 feet, over 7 feet with the wingspan. And there's not a shot on the floor he can't make. So, like Dominique relied a lot on his athleticism. Even Kobe to an extent, although later in his career he was a little bit different. But KD is just a different animal in terms of scoring. Carmelo or somebody else I kind of put in that category, certainly not on the level of KD. But KD can get his shot. He can score 25 in his sleep.
When you talk about Kareem, Skyhook, Marv, and some of the Jordan's fade away, Kobe's fade away, Jordan's definitely all his moves. But when you look at KD's jumper, it's almost an indefensible shot because he's so long and he gets up and he just boom. And he's so efficient with his scoring, man. And you're right, Marv. When he went to Golden State, he even expanded his game. He did. Because of where he went and how he went there, we took it for granted, but he did more on the defensive end. He rebounded more. He blocked more shots. KD a bad boy. KD is a
and remember, he was guarding the best offensive player on the other. He was starting to take that responsibility. And they played. He was guarding LeBron the whole game. So yeah, I mean he's on the hill. He's on the hill, Raquel. I'm sorry.
Your boy's still there, and I love LeBron. And again, my favorite player in the league, I'm with you, Raquel, is LeBron.
I will say to you, I told you so when the time comes.
Okay, we've got a few comments from social media. Kevin Banks from YouTube says, number 6, Julius Erving. Number 5, John Havlicek.
Okay.
There we go, Havlicek. Number 4 is Scottie Pippen. Number 3, Kevin Durant. Number 2, Larry Bird. And number 1, LeBron James.
All right. You can throw Havlicek out of there.
All right.
Hey, man, he won a lot of titles. He won a lot of
titles. Yeah, he won a lot of titles. But Havlicek, I'd take Jerry West before I take Havlicek.
What's the next?
Yeah, Kevin Banks also said Elgin didn't win a championship. So that was another comment was made.
That's why he's number 3 on my list, because he never won the championship. As a matter of fact, the year that Elgin Baylor retired was the year that the Lakers won the championship. It's ironic because he would have got a ring if he hadn't retired, and he retired sort of in the middle of the season. That was ironic, but they wanted to put him on the bench, and he didn't want to come off the bench. So that's the little backdrop on that.
And on Facebook, Poppy Griggs says her number 5 is Larry Bird. Number 4 is Scottie Pippen. Number 3, Irvin, my man. Number 2, Bailey. And number 1, KD.
You know, I knew Poppy Griggs was going to go with KD, but
Poppy, I liked you until today.
KD a bad boy. KD, I'm telling you, KD is close, man, and it's going to be interesting.
Did LeBron make her list?
No. LeBron wasn't on the list at all.
Then she needs to study. She needs to go study. That's ridiculous. That's one of the most offensive things I've heard this week. It's Wednesday. You gotta go study. You gotta Google some stuff. Go study.
Well, maybe she doesn't like people that flip teams, Raquel, before they get championships. Maybe she don't like people. Maybe she don't like people that leave the team that they're on and go get championships. I don't know.
I mean, Kevin Durant did the same thing, and that was her number 1. Hell, I can't even remember the other people. I'm so disgusted with that list. Is it anybody else?
Okay, yeah, there's a couple of more comments, not necessarily on this one, but Courtney Nicole said, and this was for the other comment. She said Patrick Beverly will give LeBron a run. That's one of her comments, and then Poppy Griggs just wrote, Raquel, it was a mistake. LeBron and KD are tied.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I can get with that, Poppy. I
don't know, but Courtney Nicole, I can't get with the Pat Beverly with KD. I mean LeBron. Did she say KD or LeBron?
LeBron. In the playoffs,
I can't get with that because you saw how KD did Pat Beverly. Pat Beverly too little. He a pit bull, but nah, he too little.
He'll frustrate LeBron though. You remember he blocked his shot at the end of the game earlier this year.
He did.
You know, and you know it was embarrassing to me. Come on, LeBron, don't let Patrick Beverly block your shot when you can win the game. Jordan, Raquel, Jordan would have never let that happen. And some little peak squeak person block his shot. That would have been a 2 points and game over. But that's a different story.
And we also have another comment from Kevin Banks, and this is when we were talking about Terrell Owens, and his comment was, T.O. was afraid of Sean Taylor, never played well against Redskins with Taylor.
Oh.
Look,
Sean Taylor, he bring him,
Kevin, I love Sean Taylor, but come on, give me a break. T.O. ain't afraid of anybody. Look, like I said, T.O.'s a bad man. Stop it.
That's he just trying to show some Redskins love. I get it, Kevin. I get it.
Don't forget that.
T.O. definitely.
Hey, Marv, you didn't comment about the change of the name, though. Come on, Kevin Banks. Step up to the plate. What about the name change?
All right, so I know we're coming towards the end. I did want to make sure we touched on this, though, because I think it is important with NASCAR. And, you know, having the only black driver, I think it's Bubba Wallace. I think we saw some things that came out that might have been a little different than initially the reports. But, you know, what are your guys' thoughts about the noose being found in the garage, no matter when it was, the reaction? You know, I think it's important that we might touch on that and just see how people are feeling about it.
I'll take it really quick, Marv. Bottom line is, what the damn noose is doing, what does a noose would do in any garage? What do they have the noose in there for? I mean, give me a break. I mean, it's nice, but what is the noose there for? Do you pull it to pull the door closed or something? That's ridiculous. And I still say somebody did that. It's sort of whitewashing it a little bit. That's my comment on it.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Bubba Wallace, do your thing, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he's definitely bringing NASCAR to a different place. I mean, if you saw his interview the other day, I think it was the first time you saw just so many people of color in the stands, rooting him on. So, I mean, it's good the way that he's changing. And you also, I mean, I got to applaud NASCAR. I mean, they have made some pretty bold statements that you wouldn't expect them to make when it comes to even clapping back against some drivers that were making idiot comments about, the Confederate flag and such. But I think it's a good stance, but it's not a good look when they talk about, it was found 2 weeks ago. Who cares when it was found? I don't care when it was found. It was found. Don't try to preface it when it was found 2 weeks ago. I don't care about that. Raquel, what do you think?
First, great job, NASCAR, for jumping in front of it and jumping in front of it early. As a girl who's been to many races, as a girl who's had the opportunity to drive a NASCAR car, NASCAR does really cool things for also Black graduates. So they have always stepped up, and they've done it silently. They've never bragged about their support in our community. So great job, NASCAR, for being in front of it in the moment that it happens and not wait for the backlash. Bubba, I'm super proud of this guy, super proud of all the drivers who walked with him. It's sad. I'm almost at a loss for words that someone is so bold anymore. Like, I think that's a very bold thing to do. And honestly, man to man, if you will, I would have to put my hands on you if I knew who you were. I would have to let you feel all the hands I got. That's ridiculous. It's sad. That saddens me in a way that I can't really articulate right now. It was a sad thing. I was very disappointed when I saw that in the news. It was heartfelt. I was angry. It was a lot of different things, and I don't want to comment too much on it because I may say something that I don't necessarily want to say while we're live. But very disappointed. But love how NASCAR stepped in front of that, dealt with it, stood tall even against some of the good old boys. They still stood tall, and I can appreciate that. I think they've done something that the NFL has failed to do.
Yeah. Good points, Raquel.
Do you
I have
think
much
that
more respect for NASCAR? I really do. I have a lot more.
You guys will love NASCAR. We have to go to a race. I mean, you go to NASCAR, you don't have to take anything with you. They will take care of you. You will have all the beer you can hit. NASCAR, you got to go to a race. It's amazing.
Yeah. I hear it's a fun time. I mean, I went to one years and years ago. It was so long ago I can't remember, but I always hear that it's a great time. It's a great experience, and the power from just the race itself. Do you guys think this will spawn maybe with Bubba Wallace being the first driver of color? How hard is it to get into NASCAR? I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to this stuff.
We're not bred to be a part of NASCAR. I'll say that. We're not bred to do that. Just like there was a time where we didn't play tennis, and there was a time we didn't golf. Now he's the Tiger of NASCAR. Right. We don't have access to the cars to even train. We don't have the access that's needed to really put more Black people into NASCAR. So, he has a gift. It's a gift to be able to do that. Trust me, you lose 10 pounds when you come out of that car. That's how hot the suit is. Yeah. So for him, I think it's a God-given gift and talent that he possesses, because we don't traditionally have what we need to even prepare to be in NASCAR.
Watch on Netflix, there's a documentary about, and it's called Uppity. Mm-hmm. And I forget who is the race car driver it is, but it's a beautiful documentary about NASCAR and getting into it, and for an African American getting into that opened my eyes about NASCAR. I mean, it really did. But what I will say is this: it's bringing more Black people in the stands. That's a beautiful thing, and it may spawn some little Black kid to want to be a NASCAR driver. And that's great.
Well, what we have now, because we now have the first Black driver, we will start to have more access. You'll start to see more access for Black children now that you have a leader doing it. unlike everything else. When Serena and Venus came along, Black girls weren't playing tennis. And once it was introduced to us, we will find a way once it's introduced, and when we see something that looks like us, that resembles who we are, we will find a way, even if we have to build a racket car and do it, you know what I mean? We're gonna do it, but we have to see it first. We're a very visual group of people. We're a very hands-on group of people, and that hasn't changed from our ancestors to now. So I think you will start to see little Black boys and girls have access to live that NASCAR dream if they desire to.
Watch Uppity. Watch Uppity. Willie T. Ribbs, that's his name. Willie T. Ribbs and Uppity. That's a tremendous documentary for anyone that wants to see. He's really the first great Black NASCAR driver. It opened my eyes so much when I watched that. So.
And we've got a couple of comments. We've got a couple of comments from YouTube. Kevin Banks says, I agree. It doesn't matter when it was there. NASCAR seemed relieved that it wasn't recent, but it shows that more is needed to root out racism from the sport. And, this is Lamondre, and from my personal perspective, NASCAR has always been a major part of my sports enjoyment. And just seeing how the folks have stood up and stood behind Bubba and have, as Raquel said, have been quietly over the years, are really, really changing the face of what NASCAR has done. It really, really should be an example to many of the other leagues and organizations out there.
Well said, Lamondre. And I think there's no better way to close the show than on those words of Lamondre.
We need subscriptions. We need subscriptions. Hit them up.
Yeah, you guys got to go to YouTube. If you're on right now with us, I got a lot of followers that's looking at this thing through the watch party. Go to YouTube, subscribe to our page. It's After the Buzzers Sports Podcast. We need your help, so make sure you get there. And then, Saturday we have a really big interview. So we're super excited. Make sure you tune in on Saturday. It's going to be a great show, and I promise you guys, you do not want to miss Saturday's show. We have a special guest, and it's going to be huge.
Who is that guest, Mark? One of your boys.
We got Jason Caffey, former two-time NBA champion, played Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan, long NBA career, doing some great things now after basketball. But I'm going to let him kind of talk about his plight and, the things that he's done since basketball. But it will definitely be worth tuning into, listening to. He's got a lot of good things to say and that you'll want to hear.
Yeah.
All right. So for Lee Jones, or I should say Lee Dak Prescott Jones, I'm putting that name on you. We got Raquel M.R. Thomas, LP in the background, myself, Marvin Orange. I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's always love. It's always a pleasure to be here to do this show. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday. Subscribe, like, all those good things. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.